There's a number one mistake that almost everyone makes when introducing change to their team or their organization. It's one that sabotages change efforts often before they even get started. Keep watching to discover what that mistake is, why it's made by almost everyone, its impact on your change efforts, and what you can do instead. Welcome back to the channel. For those of you who are new here, I'm Dr. Dawn-Marie Turner, President of Turner Change Management and creator of the Readiness Mindset. The leader and her team had spent months identifying a solution to a scheduling problem. From her perspective, it was a win. The new system was going to allow her staff to enter their time easily, something they had been complaining about for months. Needed reports would be generated faster and with less effort, and scheduling gaps could be filled easier. Those were just a few of the benefits that the leader and her team had identified for the organization and the employees. So she gathered her employees and announced the change. She enthusiastically described the new system, what it was going to do, the benefits and the opportunities, and all of its other advantages. Her staff's response was swift, loud, but not enthusiastic. People challenged the solution, questioned its value, and rationalized that the problem wasn't that bad. Does any of this sound familiar? Well, if it does, it's what happens when you make the number one mistake when introducing anything new or different to your team or your organization. What is the number one mistake? Leading with the solution or the change event, its benefits, advantages, and all of the other positive attributes of the change. You may be thinking, whoa, wait a minute. Aren't I supposed to introduce the benefits? When I coach leaders on how to avoid this mistake and not lead with the solution, that's what they're surprised about. Many ask, but don't I need to talk about the benefits? Let staff know how this solution will solve the problem, all of its advantages, even what's in it for them, in order to get their buy-in and implement the change? The short answer, yes. But it shouldn't be your lead story. And it should not be the first that people hear about the change event. Intuitively, leading with the solution makes sense. You're pleased, even excited. You know what's needed. You've identified a solution to a problem or how to take advantage of an opportunity. The problem is that when you lead with the solution, that it's based on your level of readiness and not the readiness of the people who are just being introduced to the change. That's why it can sabotage your efforts even before you get started. One reason you don't want to talk about the solution first, whether it's that new software, the scheduling system, or even a small shift in their workday, is that it puts you in the unenviable position of having to sell a solution when people don't understand the problem. So just like that director, the backlash is swift and often very loud. The other problem that starting with the solution creates is that you often introduce it as if it's a fait accompli. And because of the way all of us as human beings are hardwired, change creates uncertainty, fear of the unknown, and disruption to our normal pattern, which is uncomfortable. And although all of us have a different tolerance level, this uncertainty is anxiety-provoking for everyone. So instead of excitement about the solution, your team challenges, questions the solution as they attempt to navigate the uncertainty, disruption, and potential stress of the change that's required. A very normal response. And all of this, if you are not aware of it, can set off a cascade of reactions that makes the situation worse instead of better. For example, initially, you misinterpret that backlash as a lack of understanding of the benefits because you assume that everyone knows what the problem is. They've been complaining about it for months. And that may be true, but they don't know it in the context of the solution that you just announced or the change that you just announced. So you think, if they could just understand the benefits and how this is the right decision, they'd get on board. You're emotionally and intellectually invested in the solution, so you move into tell and sell mode. You defend, you promote the change, doubling down on its advantages, showing them the bells and whistles, pushing harder to convince them that this is the right solution, maybe the only solution. When that doesn't work, and if you're working with a resistant mindset, you come to the only logical conclusion. People are resistant to change. And if they are resistant to change, what you need to do is manage the resistance. The result? You label people resistant to change. Dismiss any of those dissenting comments that your people make because they are resistant, and then you push harder. But they aren't resistant to change. And labeling people as resistant increases the risk that you filter out critical information needed to ensure the success and get the results that you need and want. Remember that scheduling system I mentioned at the beginning? I met that leader about a year after the new system had been announced. The department was still struggling to get that system adopted. People were frustrated, even angry. The lack of adoption of that system was not only impacting it, but it was inhibiting other changes that the organization needed to make. So what can you do instead? First, take a step back. Recognize that you have a higher level of readiness than anyone who is just being introduced to that change. You started sooner. If you think of change as a journey, you're at mile 10, while your team is still back at the office, maybe even wondering where you are. They don't know or may not know that there's even a journey to begin. Second, give context. Remember, they may not know or understand why the change was needed. And even if they did, they may not understand it within the context of the solution or change that you are proposing. It's why often your team will challenge the solution as not being the one that will solve the problem. Recognize that change leadership is about inviting, enabling, and encouraging people to navigate that white space, the space from where they are when the recognition of the need for change and where they need to be in order to adopt those new activities and behaviors. And to do that, they need the context to make the journey. Help people experience your journey that you took to identify the solution and make the decision. What was the problem as you perceived it? What options did you explore? And why did you choose this solution or this change in particular and not another one or one that they may be proposing? Explore the change from the perspective of the people that are going to do the heavy lifting. What do they see that you don't see? Adhere to the law of change. I've done a video on the law of change and I will post it in the show notes below. Third, remove the language of resistance and adopt a readiness mindset. When you work with a readiness mindset, you recognize and celebrate. You build capacity for change. You celebrate questions, challenges, and potential risks that are raised by your team and others as a sign of readiness. Remember, they may be asking many of the same questions or voicing concerns you may have had when you began your change journey. Finally, leave yourself open to exploring and examining the solution. Your frontline employees may see risks that you can't see. Get yourself into the conversation and create the journey with them. With these 3 actions, you will avoid making the number 1 mistake when introducing change, reduce resistance, increase readiness, and the capacity for your organization to change. If you'd like to learn more about getting your employees ready for change, check out my 10 simple rules for getting employees ready for change. I'll include it in the link below. Okay, That's it for now. I'll see you soon.